Good afternoon, Rotary Club. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our moment of inspiration will be provided by John Gillott. John?
Please go ahead and have a seat. As many of you know, I'm the executive director for the local Anthony Wayne Area Council Boy Scouts. 25 years of my adult life has been spent in scouting, but much more important to me is when I was about 7 years old, somebody came to my elementary school and said, hey, if you join scouting, you get to play with pocket knives, campfires, and BB guns. So I joined, because that's what boys want to do. Little did I know I would be exposed to something that we call the Scout Law, which is 12 characteristics and points that we feel every scout should know and live their life according to. And I personally feel if we all did it, our communities would be a little bit better off. So I pulled out of my library today, it's not an original, but it's the 1925 Boy Scout Handbook. And I thought it was interesting that when you look at the 12 points, there really isn't a whole lot different between 1925. By the way, this was back when Calvin Coolidge, I think, was the honorary president of the Boy Scouts. So I wanted to go through this a little bit. It says a scout is trustworthy. A scout's honor is to be trusted. If he were to violate this honor by telling a lie or by cheating or by not doing exactly a given task when trusted on his honor, he may be directed to hand over his scout badge. A scout is loyal. He is loyal to all to whom loyalty is due: his scout leader, his home, his parents, and his country. A scout is helpful. He must be prepared at any time to save life, help injured persons, and share the home duties. He must do at least one good turn daily. A scout is friendly. He is a friend to all and a brother to every other scout. A scout is courteous. He is polite to all, especially to women, children, old people, the weak, and helpless. A scout is kind. He is a friend to animals. He will never kill nor hurt any living creature needlessly, but will strive to save and protect all harmless life. A scout is obedient. He obeys his parents, scoutmasters, patrol leaders, and all other duly constituted authorities. A scout is cheerful. He smiles whenever he can. I'll summarize these a little bit quicker. A scout is thrifty. He does not wantonly destroy property. He works faithfully, wastes nothing, and makes best use of his opportunities. A scout is brave. He has the courage to face danger in spite of fear and to stand up for right against the coaxing of friends or the jeers or threats of enemies. A scout is clean. He keeps clean in body and thought, stands for speech, clean sport, clean habits, and travels with a clean crowd. A scout is reverent. He is reverent towards God. He is faithful in his religious duties and respects the convictions of others in matters of custom and religion. If all in our community and in our society would follow those same 12 points, I believe it would be a great step forward for everything that we do in the community.
John, and might I add, you represent all 12 of those points excellently. Welcome to the Fort Wayne Rotary Club. Do we have any visiting Rotarians? Any online? Seeing no hands up, do we have any guests of Rotarians?
Good afternoon. I'd like to introduce Lexi Parrott. She's my guest today. She's going to be graduating soon in December, and her major is in nonprofit work, so it's sort of serendipitous to have John talk about the Boy Scouts. And if anybody would be interested in a dynamic, interesting nonprofit professional, talk to her afterwards.
President Jeff and fellow Rotarians, my guest for the second week in a row is Justin Klepper, the Executive Director of CTN.
And do we have any guests online? And you'll tell me if you see any hands up there, right? Okay. All right. Well, if you're not already done so, please check in online and let everyone know that you're here at the Fort Wayne Rotary Club, the best Rotary Club in the world. On this date in history, in 1781, British forces under General Cornwallis signed the terms of surrender to George Washington at Yorktown at 2 p.m., ending the Revolutionary War. And on this date in rock history, in 1974, was a date about nothing. The #1 album at that time was by Bachman Turner Overdrive, featuring their hit single, You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet. And the #1 song was by Billy Preston, Nothing from Nothing Leaves Nothing. And so I thought that was an interesting tie-in, both in 1974. Our Rotary Is moment will be provided by Roger Reese.
Thanks so much, Jeff. There's probably one event that really changed the trajectory of my life. And it's interesting enough too, and it wasn't just my life, I think it changed my children's life as well. And before I share that event, I want to go back to tell you how it really happened. It happened even before I was born. My mother, age 9, was playing out in the farmyard with the neighboring kids. And she just didn't feel well. And so she went to lay down on the sofa in the farmhouse. And she became worse, progressively worse. Her father, my grandfather, had to walk her to the bed. That was the last time she walked. Stricken by polio. She had polio, or the aftermath of polio, the effects of polio, that actually paralyzed her from the waist or the hips down. So we grew up, 2 strapping boys grew up with mom who walked on braces and crutches. She went on to high school, she went on to business college, and she lived a productive life, worked here at Crossroads Fort Wayne Children's Home for 45 years. I say that because the effects of polio, I think, even shaped the way I decided to live out my career in compassion ministries or compassion work. And I think of the trials that she had throughout her life. There were 3 things that you always had to watch out for. And as the boys, we always had to make sure, 1, no water on the floor. She would slip. Be careful of frost in the morning, and ice. I say it's multi-generational effect because she ended up, again, had a wonderful, productive life. And by the way, nothing slowed her down. When we were, I think I was 16, I had a Yamaha 350 motorcycle. We decided to strap mom on. Me and my brother, we actually, with her braces, we strapped her on. And that was one of, as she went on to tell, one of the more fun days of her life. And, but I got to tell you, she lived with us for 13 years upon her death. And even my children, my 3 children, they came home not long ago and we were all laughing around the table about grandma and about her willingness to press in difficult times. Now I'm going to make a generalization here. So it's Roger's generalization. Every person I've met affected by polio are overcomers. They are overcomers. They're overachievers. They go above and beyond. And my mother was no exception to that. And I could go on and tell you story after story. She loved to mow the lawn. And once we got a tractor with hydrostatic drive on it where she didn't have to use her feet, oh, she just loved to mow. Tomorrow is National Polio Eradication Day. And so I am so grateful for this club. And that's one of the reasons I like polio, or I like Rotary, because of their work in polio. That every August when I'm called upon to be a part of the polio Rotary run, not only am I glad to run that, but I'm glad for the folks who work hard to raise money to share vaccines across this world. We're 99.9%, as they say, this far away, 2 countries, Afghanistan and Pakistan, yet to find 100% eradication there. So thank you for your service. Let's keep pressing in, and I honor your work in polio.
Thank you, Roger. Very moving. Lynn, did you have something to add to that?
Well, as many of you have just heard, a wonderful, touching story. When I was growing up in South Bend, there was a children's rehab facility that I had to visit because of a birth defect that I had experienced. And a lot of the children who were there were rehabbing from polio, and that was in the 50s. Later on, when I moved to Chicago and I worked for a fundraising consulting firm, I worked with as he identified himself, a Reformed Methodist minister. He left the ministry, but he always took his shoes off in the office, and I couldn't figure out why Phil did that. And so I thought maybe he was showing his beautiful socks or his interesting socks, but no, he grew up having polio, and he just didn't feel comfortable having shoes, restrictive shoes on his feet. So Roger, thank you for that message. And as many of you know, on October 21st, Rotary celebrates, the world celebrates World Polio Day. So let me give you a couple of facts that recently appeared in an issue of Rotary International's newsletter. As you may recall, on August 25, the World Health Organization announced that the transmission of the wild poliovirus officially stopped in all 47 countries of its African region. It was an historic announcement and a vital step toward global eradication of polio, which, as you know, is Rotary's top priority. After decades of hard-won gains in the region, Rotary and its partners in the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, and you know many of these, the World Health Organization, U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, UNICEF, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, proclaimed that milestone as an achievement in public health. And they offer that as proof that a strong commitment, coordination, and perseverance can world the rid of polio. The last cases of polio caused by the wild virus in the African region were recorded in Nigeria's northern state of Borno in August of 2016 after 2 years with no cases. But conflict, along with challenges in reaching mobile populations, migrating from village to village, had hampered efforts to immunize children there. But now that the African region is free of wild poliovirus, 5 of the World Health Organization's 6 regions, representing more than 90% of the world's population, are now free of the disease. As Roger mentioned, Afghanistan and Pakistan are the 2 remaining countries where the wild virus still exists. So, what are we doing about this? Well, Rotary International is still raising funds to support the eradication of eradication of polio. And since, sorry, and I can't turn my page and talk at the same time, I guess. But since the beginning of Rotary International's fundraising efforts to eradicate polio, nearly $900 million has been raised toward those efforts. And we continue to do that work today. So as a way to celebrate World Polio Day, then why not make a gift to the Rotary International Foundation and designate it for Polio Plus? We've talked about the millennials, the younger population who doesn't know what polio is, because some of us are old enough to know or remember that in our own childhoods or even adulthoods. So we need to remember to carry that message forward and talk about the crisis that occurs in other parts of the world where Rotary International and its partner agencies will make an impact. And thank you to all of you who have helped to eradicate polio by talking about it, holding events, and actually administering the vaccination over the years.
Thank you. Now, there are other service clubs, and they're fine, but Rotary, there is no other organization in the world that has taken on the elimination of a disease across the world. It's just one of the things that sets Rotary apart from all other service clubs, and I can't say enough. But I will say, please put $3 in the bucket. And are there any high fives? Any online? Seeing none, we will move on. We'd like to thank our Rotary workers today. Our greeter was Mr. Tincap. Our house was Kurt Boykel. Our spin editor is John Pierce. And the AV again is Mr. Kurt Boykel. Now we have several announcements that we need to run through today. The first is, could I have October birthdays please stand? Come on, October birthdays. I have some cupcakes. And so I will ask Holly if you could take some cupcakes around to the good folks who are standing. And it looks like I bought too many, so if you want to say, hey, at the days of my birthday, then please please take a cupcake. I will take one myself. Yes, yesterday was my birthday, and we had a family gathering at my house on Saturday. Each of my 3 sons had a child that had an October birthday. So every Pete house in Fort Wayne had an October birthday, and we celebrated one big party on Saturday and had a lot of fun. While the cupcakes are being taken around, we do have an introduction of a new member, and I believe, Bill, you're going to be introducing our new member. I'll bring you the badge up. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's my pleasure, and it is
truly a pleasure to introduce Mike Dahm as our newest Rotarian. Just come up here. Mike, come on up. Don't be shy. Mike is married to Dee Dee, and they have two children. Three children and 4 grandchildren. Mike is a Fort Wayne native and attended Central Catholic High School and then Xavier University, where he majored in business and minored in real estate. And that's no surprise. Mike told me, he said, I always wanted to be in real estate. So I think that's, he followed that dream very much. He was with Harding Dahm for a number of years, and very frankly, that's where I had an opportunity to meet Mike. And then Harding Dahm became Bradley Company, where Mike is serving presently. And Mike is or has been a Rotarian in the past. He was with Anthony Wayne. Nothing wrong with Anthony Wayne, but he's downtown now. Wanted to be a part of the downtown scene with our Rotary Club. He's been a realtor for over 40 years. He was a past president of the Fort Wayne Board of Realtors and also state president of the Society of Industrial and Office Realtors, SIOR. And he was, let's see, what else did I want to say about Mike here? Yeah, I think that's a good idea because I kind of clobbered around what Mike's past has been. Mike?
I always enjoyed Rotary, especially the 4-way test. And I knew what Rotary stood for. And when we moved our office downtown here about a month ago, I called Bill and I said, Bill, I'd like to join the downtown Rotary. Because I was always a guest, and I said I could see your organization was tops. So thank you for the opportunity.
We have a pin, a card, and a badge for you going forward. And let me say that that Anthony Wayne's loss is certainly our gain.
That's fair.
Our next order of business is regarding our Big Easy Feast. As you know, this is our biggest fundraiser of the year. It's our most public event. And as with last year, we are selecting a nonprofit partner to share in the proceeds that we raise. 50% will go to the nonprofit partner, 50% will go to scholarships for our Interact students. And so it's a very important selection where we have 3 finalists that we want to share with you. I'm going to call Holly and Lori forward. We're going to review with you quickly the 3 finalists that we have. Know that the 2 runner-ups will receive $1,000, and there's certainly organizations that we can look to have perhaps some local service projects with for the remainder of this Rotary year. But we'd like to review with you the 3 finalists that we have.
All right, thanks. You should have received an email from me through Club Runner talking about the selection process, the voting process. Many of you have voted already, thank you. However, should you hear something today that makes you change your vote, you can just email me and say, I'd like to change my vote. This is not the presidential election. It's not one and done. You can change your mind. Well, you can, but I'm only counting 1 vote. You can send me as many votes as you want. You can also, if you just want to come up to me today and tell me what your vote is, I'll record it. I'm keeping a spreadsheet. So I'm going to talk about, we have 3 organizations, Wellspring, Science Central, and Bring It, Push It, Own It. We had 52 applications. I'm going to give a brief overview of Wellspring. They've been around for 50 years, serving the central Fort Wayne area. I personally was not aware of all that they did with their 5,300 served through the shop where you can get professional and other clothing, their youth programming in the summer and after school, their programming for older adults and disabilities. But what they asked us to help support was their food programming. You may be familiar with Wellsprings Food Bank. Since COVID hit, they actually served 88,000 meals through their food bank last year. Last year is not comparable to this year. They have had a 535% increase in need at their food bank. So what they have started doing is what they call Wellspring on Wheels, which is what they're asking us to fund. They're using their vans that they use for their youth programming, packing them full of meals and taking them to various locations in Fort Wayne to distribute food to help meet this increased need. All right, then Lori is going to come up and present Bring It, Push It, Own It, correct?
Thank you, Holly. We certainly have 3 wonderful organizations, and Bring It, Push It, Own It is one as well. Bring It, Push It, Own It was started by Tish Marie Stotler back in 2013. And what she noticed was that her daughter, who was outgoing and vivacious through her early years, when she got around age 12, she started getting more withdrawn, more self-conscious, lower self-esteem. And she was thinking, this can't be happening to the only person in the world. There's probably more people. And so she started Bring It, Push It, Own It to give girls experience in social lives, increasing their body image, helping the performance in school. And I know they do it a lot at SPEACE. They bring in different professionals to help them. And they have a 2-hour session. And the first session is an activity of some sort. And they bring in professionals to help with that. And then the session concludes with some another professional in the mental health world as well, just to help give them confidence in relationships, personally, et cetera. They also go on, I've seen on their Facebook site where they go to different retreats that they do as well. This became so popular that in last year, they actually started mentoring boys as well. So they bring in men who are good role models and help the boys with relationships and their own self-esteem. And so what they're asking now is, because this has been so well received in the community, they started a pilot program through Turnstone and Gigi's Playhouse. And this is a fantastic opportunity to help bring those same 10As to people with physical disabilities, as well as that have mental challenges as well. So they do a very similar thing with, they give them the opportunity to participate in physical activities, develop self-esteem through the physical activities, and also kind of that camaraderie where you have people rooting each other on and encouraging each other. So they have a successful piloted program, and as with anything getting off the ground, the challenges with the financial ability. So what they would use this for is to help continue growing the program that they have there with the adaptive program at Turnstone and Gigi's Playhouse. So there's more online under the information here if you'd like it. So thank you. And here's President Jeff to talk about Science Central.
Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Lori. Yes, our third finalist is Science Central. They were founded in 1987 by a group of teachers, parents, engineers, community leaders, and business professionals who joined together to create the Science Collective in Northeastern Indiana with the goal of enhancing our region's science education. In '95, they found a home in the former City Light and Power building, and annually, they engage 140,000 students and adults with science. They host school study trips. They do seasonal science camps. They do scout badges and professional development for teachers and scientists, and family events, and a number of things. But as with many of our nonprofits, COVID-19 hit, And so this year they tried to create some new different things. So they developed some outreach with some hands-on learning kits that could be dropped off to students that they could either do in school or at home to continue STEM learning. And they've also developed 5 new renewable energy labs dealing with geothermal, hydroelectric, solar, biofuel, and wind power. So they're trying to find new and different ways. One of the proposals that they've put forward that if you select them, that they're trying to do, it's going to be to help vulnerable children in the community overcome obstacles that they're facing by doing STEM education, trying to work specifically with kids in the foster program. And they're going to be doing this through Lifetime Youth and Family Services, as well as Big Brothers Big Sisters. So they'd be tagged together with a big brother or big sister to help them through the learning process. So it'd be working together with 2 really good partners here in town. And so those are the 3 finalists that we have. We ask you to please let Holly know if you're online. Please email her. If you're here, you can tell her or email her. But one of these 3 would be our partner for our upcoming Mardi Gras. So we thank you. We ask everyone to participate in that selection because it's something that is very important. Yes.
Lisa Waterman asked a question online. She said that Bring It, Push It On sounds like a cool organization, but can you explain their name? Does anybody have an answer for that?
I'm trying to remember. They started out by raising money by asking you to bring or push or bring in something that they could turn around and sell as one of the ways that they were trying to raise money, and the name just stuck. But I did want to ask if there's anyone here or online that has personal experience with any of those 3 organizations that you'd want to share just as additional information beyond what they put in their application. So if anyone has experience with one of these 3 partners online or here, this is your opportunity to share that information. Yes. Tim, could you take the mic around?
Well, in my career life, I've had experience with both Science Central and Wellspring. Science Central has just continued to be a very important and robust science-oriented organization over the years and has become more inclusive over the years. So I think any time that we can support an organization that addresses some of the critical issues, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, just see if you guys are listening. I think that's always a good thing. And Wellspring, gosh, since Melissa Reinhardt has assumed the executive director role, our church, First Wayne Street United Methodist Church, has been a longtime supporter and one of the early founders of Wellspring. And their food drive has been a huge boon to this community. They've always had a food bank, but they found a way to pivot in this pandemic environment and take the food bank literally on the road. And they are on the process of buying a van, and I'll tell you about that later. I can't disclose that, but I know about that, so that they can put more food in their food van. So I think that's just been a huge asset to what's going on in this community. I did have a chance to talk with the Bring It executive director because I had more questions about the organization. And they have a goal, if you go to their website, to expand to serve 100 individuals, males and females in this community. So I think that what they're doing to help identify some very quiet needs in the community also is worthy of our support. So read between the lines, go on their website, and look beyond just what the applications look like. Look at their board of directors, see how they're staffed, because then you get a really good understanding of not only how they're structured, but also look at their financials, because some organizations need more support that they can't readily get, that our Rotary Club can make happen, as well as bring awareness to the organization community-wide.
Just real quick to tie on to what Lynn was saying, as a former United Methodist pastor, I would just share Wellspring has just been around for years, and they worked with us in allowing to use the food that was brought in to support them. And now with COVID, what they're doing is just amazing.
Thank you. Full disclosure, my wife is on the board of Wellspring, but I will say this, that I just looked it up. Wellspring, one of the things that it does, aside from the food bank, is to provide free summer camps for youth. Last year, they served 688 students, and that would have been this summer. So even in COVID, they're really working hard to raise up the youth of our city, and I think that's really laudable.
All right, thank you. Now we are giving everyone 2 weeks. We're not asking for your vote today. We want you, if you want to vote today, if you already know what you want to do, please let Holly know. But we are, because some members are not joining us either here or online, we want them to still review the material and get back to us. So 2 weeks from today, we're asking to receive everyone's vote for who you want to select. So give it some consideration as they indicated. Look at their websites and make a selection. Thank you. Quickly, some other announcements. If you've not already done so, please complete the release forms that are available if this is your first time back, just to let Parkview Field know that you are free of symptoms. You can now begin to leave your badges here. We have we're now allowing us to put them back in the box and pick them up every week when you're here, or if you want to continue to take them home, you can. If you want to use the Zoom room for a committee meeting, please contact Jane. And we've come finally to our program for the day. And this will be introduced by Mike Munchin.
Thank you, President Jeff. It's my pleasure to introduce our program for today. And that is Matthew Perkey, relatively new CEO President and CEO at United Way of Allen County. He started in February. Among his credentials, he is a PhD candidate, a Marine Corps veteran, has studied and trained at Harvard Business School, Deloitte University, Center for Creative Leadership, and United Way Worldwide Executive Leadership Program. Also a TEDx speaker and married to Amanda, who is a high school social studies teacher with 3 amazing children, 7, 5, and 3. Matthew?
My skill is not PowerPoint, so I apologize in advance. I also think I'd be remiss to not highlight some people that are in this crowd. As a day of nonprofit, welcome to the field. If you have any questions, let us know. You have great company here. But if you whether it's Mike or Roger, Salvation Army, CTN, I mean, if you look around, the people that are doing the work that I'm going to be talking about are sitting in the room with us. So I want to say thank you very much to you all. Also to Mr. Steve Smith, who is given a career of service to United Way, sir. So I wanted to thank you for that. Like Mike, next slide. Like Mike said, I am pretty new to the community. February, because apparently it sounded great to transition states and families during a worldwide pandemic. So that was fun. And then being the Marine I was like, you know what else we should do? We should do a reorg. We should do all these things at once. So just a couple highlights. Why am I standing in front of you right now? I've had the pleasure of meeting a lot of you, but in case you have not, or we have not had the pleasure of meeting, United States Marine Corps veteran. I served 3 deployments. The first one was in Iraq. The second one was in Afghanistan. And when you said Afghanistan, I was like, uh-oh. But I'd never been to Pakistan, so And then my third deployment was in Haiti post-earthquake 2010. So do you guys remember when the pirates were a thing in the Indian Ocean? Like they were just these guys in little rowboats with small arms fire shooting on naval vessels. Apparently that sounded like a great idea. So after Afghanistan, they put us on what they call a MU. It's a Marine Corps Expeditionary Unit. Basically, they put 500 Marines on a naval vessel and tell us to go float around the world and relax. First of all, putting 500 Marines anywhere is never a good idea, ever, especially in enclosed spaces. So we're out there supposedly decompressing from our Afghanistan deployment, fighting these pirates of some sort. I don't really know what that was about. When the earthquake hit Haiti. And if you take 500 Marines who know nothing but combat and put them in a humanitarian assistance position without proper training, it is not going to end well. I don't want to belittle what combat was, but you know what you're there to do. You accomplish your mission every day. You go to sleep, you eat some chow, and you do it again. It is not the same in humanitarian assistance. So you put these individuals in Haiti, first unit on the ground after the earthquake, and it was the epitome of human pain. If you want to think about the most abysmal situations you could possibly think of, that was our job for 6 months. As our days turned into weeks and our weeks turned into months, I started seeing these white Live United t-shirts intermingling with our camouflage. I had no idea what a United Way was. All I knew was that these were citizens on the front line with the United States Marine Corps, and I was hooked. Fast forward, after that deployment, I think 80% of my unit got out. We were just ill prepared, emotionally, mentally. And so after that, there was 2 tracks that our unit took. You either use that as fuel to better you and your community's life, or you let that get the best of you. Lucky for me, I was part of the first group. I got out of the Marine Corps, moved back to Dayton, Ohio. They were not currently hiring at the United Way of the greater Dayton area. But my logic was that I was going to volunteer with all 28 partner agencies of the United Way of the greater Dayton area. That way, when an opportunity came about, not one person in the nonprofit sector would be able to tell me that they outworked me. Marine logic, right? Work harder, not smarter, apparently. Roger, don't say anything. Eventually, a position did come open. Went in as a manager of resource development. Once again, no idea what that meant. Just knew it was a job. I got my foot in the door. What I did find out was that I was very good at it. And I went from manager to director, director to associate vice president to executive vice president in about a 3.5-year span. Amazing work went on in Dayton during that time. This is right after GM left and NCR moved to Atlanta. The sob story goes, right? So then United Way Worldwide called and said, would you be interested in applying for president CEO positions? And I said, absolutely. Multiple offers came across, and if nobody has been to Athens, Georgia, I highly recommend it. Position came open at the United Way of Northeast Georgia, was the president down there in Athens for 3 years. During that time, strategic mergers as growth strategies. We had a 20% revenue increase. We cut costs by 19%, blah, blah, blah. Amazing things happened. We turned that organization into a modern United Way, still doing great things today and still expanding. After that 3 years, I knew I was brought in as a change agent. Worldwide came back to me once again and said, do you want Savannah, Georgia or Chicago? So I took this back to my wife and I said, honey, where do you want to go next? She said, I want to go home. What? Back to Dayton, Ohio? At the time I was finishing my PhD dissertation. We just had our 3rd child under the age of 5. We were 8.5 hours away from our closest relative, and I had rental properties in Dayton while living in Georgia. So not only did we have different irons in the fire, we had different fires. Her being the brains of the operation, we did exactly what she said. She said, Matthew, after a year, let's get all these things done, liquidate the properties, finish the dissertation. And when that year comes, you can fully give yourself to an organization. It was about the 10-month mark when I was notified that the United Way of Allen County here in Fort Wayne was hiring a president and CEO. So we are about 2 hours away from Dayton, which means that we are far enough that the in-laws cannot just drop in. And I say that jokingly, but I am dead serious. Dead serious. And so what an awesome career and awesome things I've been able to accomplish thus far. But none of this matters for the work that we need to do now. Next slide. So what is United Way? United Way of Allen County is one of 1,800 local United Ways across the globe. If you look at this, you will think, why would I ever invest in what is obviously a Fortune 50 corporation? Well, much like Steve could probably attest to, that every United Way is local. We are locally governed. We raise all money local and it stays local. Next slide. And so I talked to 15 staff members could walk by my office on a daily basis, and I will ask them, what does United Way do? And I will get 15 different answers. What we, United Way, have done has overcomplicated the things that we're trying to accomplish. And being the knuckle dragger that I am, Marine Corps, we're here to answer two questions. United Way is here to answer, what are our community's most pressing needs? And what can we do about it? That's it. Sometimes that means we fund, sometimes that means we convene, sometimes that means we advocate. Every initiative looks different according to that community need. Next slide. Okay, so. Can everybody hear me still? Yeah? Okay, can now everybody hear me? All right. So, somebody give me a pressing need in Allen County right now. Hunger. There is not one single organization. We are not going to fund our way out of this. We are not going to advocate our way out of this. We are not going to volunteer our way out of this. It is going to take us all. So if we're thinking of hunger as a community issue, who needs to be at this table in order for this to be solved? Employers. So we'll say the business community. Okay. Who else? The nonprofit organizations, the amazing ones that we have here in Allen County. Community leaders. So it's going to need leadership. What about our kids? You think the school district needs to be at the table? Okay. We'll just say Fort Wayne Community Schools. Two more. Who else? Local legislation? Government? All right. Who said that? Yes. Lived experience. One of the most overlooked assets in every community coalition, collective impact initiative that is rarely at the table. Thank you. So let's do lived experience. Okay. So if we have identified hunger as our community issue, we have identified hypothetically everybody that needs to be at this table. What is United Way's role? Prioritize, coordinate, convene, fund, facilitate. United Way, in my simple Marine brain, is nothing more than this red line. When my kids ask me, Daddy, what do you do for a living? I will tell them, Daddy is a professional dot connector. Because that is the role of United Way. Just kidding, I just threw a pin off that. Can you pull that back up, please? So, what have we recently found that is a need in our community? What pandemic are we in? COVID-19 hit 3 weeks after I got to Fort Wayne. And strategically, I had plans that had to be executed over the next 18 to 24 months. COVID-19 gave us the opportunity to do it now. It accelerated timelines, and it gave us a reason to become more nimble and adapt to the community needs as the community tells us priority, right? It is not United Way's role to tell the community what is priority. United Way must listen to the community to the priorities and then fund, convene, and form initiatives accordingly. So when COVID-19 hit, I was told when I first got here that I would never get all major funders of the region together at one table to invest in a common initiative. First of all, that's not a good way to lead off any conversation with a Marine, because at that point, we're just going to go above and beyond to make it happen. COVID-19 gave us that reason. So we were able to raise over $3.4 million from state, local, and federal funders, including Follinger Foundation, Community Foundation, PHP, Parkview. If it was a major funder in this region, we were at the same table now. We couldn't just say, hey, give us your money and we're going to prioritize it as we see fit and invest it, right? They were buying into an advisory committee to say, how do we as a community combat COVID-19? So because of that, we were able to raise $3.4 million. Thus far, we have funded 35 agencies, including 3 initiatives. So something else that has happened with United Way here recently is that we were able to take a need that was made priority to us by the community, form an RFP for collaborative application to go directly after that need. So one of those examples is the quarantine center. When COVID hit, there was no place for a homeless person to come about and say, I need to quarantine, can I do it here? So United Way became the managing agent. The YWCA was the operations agency. Did everybody who stepped up here have a slip up already? I was here to make you guys feel better, I guess, I don't know. The Lutheran Foundation was the fiscal agent. It took us all to come around a specific need that this community had, and it was the role of United Way to convene those. So that was the first one. The second one was the mental health initiative. Does anybody here know how high the suicide rate in African Americans spiked during COVID here in Allen County? As a combat veteran, when I am told to go see a mental health expert, what is the one thing that that mental health expert better be? A veteran, right? People seek to open themselves up to people that are like them. So the suicide rate was nothing but a symptom. What was the root cause of that issue? The root cause is that there was no pipeline for minority mental health experts to work up to being that expert. So we released an RFP, and we actually awarded 2 collaborations that were specifically targeting zip codes according to what that need was. And then the third one, it was financial assistance. Once again, United Way is not here to be on the front lines. We are here to support those that are on the front lines. So the financial assistance initiative, we all heard about the tsunami of evictions that is occurring right now. When the moratorium was lifted, people's utilities were getting shut off, eviction rates, there is a backlog of 6.5 months just for evictions. So we formed the financial assistance initiative with partners Brightpoint, Lutheran Social Services, and Catholic Charities. What we were able to do by funding 3 already very important partners in this community is we were able to have a common intake, shared data points. We were speaking the same language to try to fix a problem that we saw coming at us. Oh, and our final one is going to be eviction prevention, because that tsunami has not gone away. So our last initiative that's going to come out of the Emergency Relief Fund will probably be something along the lines of eviction prevention, and that should be released here in about 3 weeks, that RFP to apply for. Next slide, please. What does that mean? And you're going to see this throughout your career. You will see people talk about money like it is people's lives. And it is very easy to look at data and say, look at all the money we raised, right? Historically, United Ways have you ever seen those thermometers that like tick, 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 tick? We can raise all the money in the world, but that money is nothing more than the fuel to an engine that is measurably changing the lives of our community. So our goal is not to raise amount of money. Yes, it's important, but our goal is to measurably improve the lives of those in our community. And here is the statistics thus far from the Emergency Relief Fund. I know it is probably small, and I'm sorry for those online, but 526,148 pounds of food, 121,000 meals, 1,500 people for interpretation. Who thought that COVID-19 would bring about an interpretation crisis? People like Amani Family Services, amazing organizations working in that field, we're able to come alongside them and support them. Justin's right here in this work, and you guys are going to see some statistics that while this is all good, this is great work, but this is just the beginning. Can you go to the next slide, please? Some local media. I wish I could go through each of them. Next slide, please. Okay. So what does that mean? What now? Go next slide. Does anybody not know what 211 is? So 211, so if I was in a car accident out in town, what would I pick up the phone and dial? 911. If you're in a health and human services emergency, you pick up the phone, you dial 211, and they will connect you to the resources according to that issue. So what 211 is, because we will look at 2016 ALICE data, 2018 ALICE data, that does not give us the most up-to-date snapshot of the needs of our community. So I pulled some 211 data, and some of you have seen this in other meetings. If you, pre-COVID to now, calls have gone up 261%. Housing, almost 900%. Utilities, 1,400%. Transportation, Justin and I have this talk all the time. There is a 3,000% increase of calls because of transportation. Because when people look at the nonprofit sector as a whole, they think of CTN, right? But then they also say, okay, well, we can't keep as many people on our buses, social distancing, which means we need more drivers, higher expenses for Justin. Like this has the opportunity to be devastating. In fact, the newest numbers I heard was that 30% of nonprofits in Allen County will shut their doors before the end of COVID-19. So our job as United Way is to not only meet the community needs, but to support those that are doing the amazing work that needs to be done now. Next slide. And I can email this out if anybody needs this for further information. Okay, so how do you get involved? So typically people like me, and I have a funny story to tell. Do we have time for a funny story? 5 minutes, I can do it. Has anybody ever heard of Golden Pantry? It's like the 7-Eleven of the Southeast. It's like a chain of convenience stores, gas stations, pretty large. 9-county United Way, or 9-county, which happens to be the same footprint as the United Way of Northeast Georgia. My favorite thing to do, and you guys have all ran into them, are the absolute public resistors of United Way. These are my favorite conversations to have. Because once I explain what we actually do and how we do it, they're like, we had no idea. One of those people was a guy named Robert Griffith, who was president and CEO of Golden Pantry. So Golden Pantry was so anti-United Way, he wouldn't even get me on his calendar. But after months and months and months of asking, this guy literally scheduled 7-minute meeting. If you've never had someone schedule a 7-minute meeting with you, I was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be terrible. So I walk in, and you guys imagine I think of like Harry Potter, like one of those huge wood libraries, books behind him, tall back chair, facing away from me. He turns around and he says, go. Go where? Anyway, so I asked, sir, what if I and United Way could present you initiatives that would turn people that you are currently supporting in our community through taxes into paying customers of yours? Would you be interested in investing? There's not a business leader alive that would say no to that opportunity. My initial ask was going to be $300,000 the first year. He ended up investing $5 million over 3 years. Now one of our biggest contributors, and he has turned every single one of his gas stations into a secret safe house for domestic violence victims. Meaning that every golden pantry in the Southeast has a room that is set up for safety of domestic violent victims who are in an emergency. Once we start talking about our business as United Way as a return on investment to the business community to fund initiatives that the community needs, then we're all succeeding. So how can you get involved? Of course, I would not be doing my job if I did not say give financially. Because the things that we are able to do are not possible without the fuel that is funding the vehicle that is United Way. Volunteer for a cause. Whatever your passion is, and I don't know how many people spent time to actually read the answers I turned in, but if it is not United Way, I will never tell someone who comes to me and says, why should I give to United Way and not associated churches? I was like, let me introduce you to my good friend Roger, and I want you to give directly to associated churches. We are here to connect those with the resources with those that need it to do their jobs. So advocating or volunteering for a cause, whatever that may be. You know, and one of my mentors in Athens, Georgia, is anybody familiar with North Point Community Churches? Andy Stanley. So Andy Stanley's CFO was one of my mentors down in Georgia. And I heard Andy speak one time, and he said, where do we need everybody to be? Where does our community need us? And Andy Stanley answered, we need people at the intersection of what breaks their heart and their attributes. Meaning, what do you bring to the table? Do you have business skills? Do you like to sew? Or what are you passionate about? Whatever those attributes are and what breaks your heart, let United Way help you get to that intersection. Join a committee or board. Steve has served on, I think, every committee and every board that we have at United Way of Allen County. We would not be the organization we are today without people like Steve. No matter what your passion is. Fundraising, there are people out there that are passionate about fundraising, believe it or not. They love it. If you want to come check out a meeting, you're welcome to come check out a meeting. Whether it's resource development, community impact, standards, governance, advocacy, we have a place for you depending on your passion and what you can bring to the table. Advocate. Does anybody know that United Way, the state association, so Indiana United Ways as a whole, is leading the charge against predatory lending in Indiana? All these buy here, pay here's that are 39% interest on beat up cars. All these payday lenders that you get in a cycle where you fall behind one time, you get a loan, then you have to get out a loan to pay off your loan, that paid off another loan, and you are stuck in a cycle that statistics say you will never get out of. We are leading the charge to try to cap those interest rates moving forward. Community conversations. So we are in the process. We are in the final year of our current strategic plan. The qualitative portion of the data that we need in order to make the most informed decisions to fund, invest, and convene next year, that qualitative portion is kicking off right now. So if you are interested in hosting a community conversation, being part of a community conversation, or leading a community conversation, we would love to talk to you, because that is the lived experience that has not typically been taken into consideration. And affinity groups. So there is a group called Women United, and I don't know if Irene's online but groups like these are extremely powerful. So the Women United group in Milwaukee cut the teen pregnancy rate in half over 3 years. And that is because Women United came together around a single cause, much like Rotary does with polio. They are passionate about something and they invested their time, talent, and treasures, even though it's cliche, into teen pregnancy. So we would love for you to join. Basically what I'm saying is that if you have a passion to make where you work, live, and play a better place, United Way can get you plugged in regardless. Next slide, and I think that's it. Awesome. Are there any questions? I have heard them all. You are not going to hurt my feelings, I promise. Holy cow. Is that possible? You've got a lot of United Way supporters. Yes, I do. That's why I felt like I was at home when I walked in here. I was like, oh, hey, guys. No questions? Awesome.
Well, as you know, thank you first so much for your presentation today. I mean, everyone is a part of this story. As you know, we present every speaker with a Rotary pen, and we ask the first use of this pen is to put a dedication in a book that will go in the library at Washington Elementary. And this is a rather appropriate book for you. The story is Stone Soup, which is about making something out of nothing. And that's United Way all over the place.
Thank you so much.
Couple of real quick announcements. I know we're running a little over. First, our program next week will be honorary member Dr. Jonathan Walker talking about mindfulness, something that my wife wants me to hear. Our first breakfast meeting will be on the 28th at 9 a.m. at the Dash Inn. It's another opportunity to be with Rotarians. So if you've not already done so and you'd like to attend, please RSVP to Ian McCormick. And also, you should all have received a postcard announcing the Foundation Gala, which this year is going to be virtual. Well, we've had the suggestion made that we have a viewing party right here for this gala. It'll be on Thursday, the 12th of November at 7 p.m. If we have enough parties interested, we're going to do it. We'd have drinks and hors d'oeuvres available, cash bar, opportunity to watch it together and hear more about the Rotary Foundation. If we have people interested, then we'll arrange it with Parkview because I'm betting that they don't have a lot of people using this room. So if anyone would be interested in participating with a viewing party for the foundation dinner, please raise your hand. Got a handful of people, so we'll make that invitation to all our members and start looking to set that up. And now I'd like to call forward someone who's been involved in a number of projects, our golf outing, the selection of our agencies. Lori, would you please come forward to participate in the presidential cabinet drawing? And I'll ask you to start with the red door. I had a beer left over from our Big Easy. Now, word of warning, as I was getting out of the car, I bumped the lid and I heard it go. So you might want to drink it today. Open the second door. And now you have dinner at Casa. And now open the third door. And here's something we haven't done before. We have a Paul Harris Fellowship for you. We had a member that contributed $1,000 and said, I'd like it to go to someone who does not have a Paul Harris yet. And I showed him the list and he said, no question, I want this to go to Lori.
Oh,
so may I introduce our newest Paul Harris. Thank you so much for what you do for this club each and every day. Yeah, your casa and your beer, please take those. Our top 100 movie line ties in with United Way again. It's from the 1951 movie, A Streetcar Named Desire, and that is, I've always depended on the kindness of strangers. And so if you would, please join me in reciting the four-way test to guide our thoughts, words, and actions as we prepare to face the week ahead. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Rotary is adjourned.